The Spurs are locked into the number 2 pick of the NBA draft after an NBA lottery that left Spurs fans even more excited for the future. Yes, the Spurs have managed to strike gold in the lottery once again. We'll break down the lottery and what this means for the future of the Spurs. Will a new rookie be joining San Antonio, or will they choose to use this as an opportunity to lock in another veteran star? We will break down all that. What's good, Spurs Digest family? I'm Bryan Colbert, just excited as you are to talk about the NBA draft lottery, because once again, the Spurs came out victorious. No, it was not the number 1 pick. No, it was not Cooper Flagg. However, this number 2 pick might prove to be even more valuable than even Cooper Flagg for the San Antonio Spurs. We will get into that, but first, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that doorbell to be notified every time we post. I'm so excited to break this down. So excited, in fact, that we are going to be doing a duo pretty soon with me and Josh also breaking this down. But of course, I had to get on this breaking news immediately because that's what we do over here at Spurs Digest. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you get notified every time we post. So let's get right into it, because the 2025 NBA lottery was huge for so many reasons, but of course the main reason was the chance to win the Cooper Flagg sweepstakes. And surprise, surprise, Texas comes up big in the top 2. The Dallas Mavericks have won the Cooper Flagg sweepstakes as of now. Because again, Dallas has proved they could do anything, but man, what a consolation prize for losing Luka Doncic. You'll be able to pair up Cooper Flagg with Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and the rest of that Dallas Mavericks roster. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the number 2 pick. The San Antonio Spurs receive the number 2 pick, which would be very, very interesting. We're going to talk about those prospects in a second, but let's go down the list. The 76ers at 3, the Charlotte Hornets at 4, Utah Jazz at 5, the Washington Wizards, who were hoping to be number 1, fell to number 6. The New Orleans Pelicans at 7, the Brooklyn Nets at 8, the Raptors at 9, the Rockets at 10, the Trailblazers at 11, the Bulls at 12, the Hawks at 13, and then the Spurs. That Atlanta pick goes 14th. It is crazy to see the Spurs in the top 15 twice, but really, it's all about that number 2 pick. Now, like I said, we are going to be breaking down with Josh a duo about this draft lottery. So really, I want to just focus on that number 2 pick, because that's really what it's all about. We will talk more about that 14th pick in the future in another video, but let's focus on this number 2 pick. Now, first things first, let's look at how the odds stacked up for the Spurs coming into this. We talked about this in the last video right now. You look at where the Spurs stood. They stood a 6.3% chance to lock up number 2. Only 6.3. Now, we had talked about teams hitting it out the park and being able to get the number 1 pick with 6% or less, but the Spurs still managed to get number 2. Now, of course, we understand when you get that close to a generational talent like Cooper Flagg, you do not feel too great. However, I still feel ecstatic because, again, I believe that this number 2 pick can prove to be even more valuable for a team like the Spurs, because, yes, every team could use a Cooper Flagg. However, the Spurs are still in position to change their roster and make their roster a championship roster rather quickly, because, again, you have a core with the Spurs in Stephon Castle, De'Aaron Fox, and Victor Wembanyama. You also have an amazing 3-and-D guy in Devin Vassell. You have possibly one of the best 6 men in the NBA in Keldon Johnson, which, again, these players are special. You have a guy that can guard the 1 through 5 in Jeremy Sochan. And those are just to name a few of the guys on this roster. So, again, you have to be feeling great if you're a San Antonio Spurs fan. So, first things first, again, I know you look at this number 2 pick and say, hey, this is an amazing trade asset, which it is, and we will talk about that. But first, we're talking draft, so let's look at right now who is the consensus number 2 pick in this draft. And we've seen it already. We've seen it a time or two where these top picks are able to be pretty much figured out, right? And right now, we know that it's looking like Dylan Harper for number 2 out of Rutgers. He has been the consensus number 2 pick in almost every mock draft. It's funny, we've talked about the number 8 pick. We've talked about the 7 and 9th for a little bit. We've even talked about number one because, of course, everybody's looking at Cooper Flag, but not enough has been said about Dylan Harper, who's really locked himself in to that number two spot, a freshman out of Rutgers, 6'5", 6'6", 213 pounds with a 6'10" wingspan. Imagine a Stephon Castle, but with a jumper, with a dagger. That's what Dylan Harper brings. Shooting 33% from the three-point line, but I'm telling you, his jump shot is better than advertised with a 48% from the field. Dylan Harper looked amazing. Playing next to Ace Bailey, another top prospect, another guy that could possibly go number two. But right now, they are looking at Dylan Harper as the consensus number two pick. Now, you look at this guy and you say, how does this guy fit with what the Spurs have right now? It seems like the guard position is kind of locked up with De'Aaron Fox, with Stephon Castle, even with, again, Devin Vassell, who could play the three. You look at a guy like Dylan Harper. Now, new age basketball, Mitch Johnson might like a three-guard lineup. However, I don't know if Spurs fans are necessarily feeling like this is the prospect out of all these guys that will necessarily fit with what we already have going on. However, I'm telling you right now, when you get a guy like Dylan Harper, you find a way to make it work. This freshman was incredible, averaging 19.4 points. Came up big for Rutgers when they were playing USC in the Big Ten tournament. They went into overtime. They came up short. However, he dropped 27 points on 42% shooting. Struggled from the three-point line. However, he had 8 rebounds and 8 assists. And that, to me, is what's most impressive about a guy like Dylan Harper is the things he can do, all of the little things. He can do all of the things that you want and expect from your young guys when you have these freshman guys. And to me, I'm very, very excited about a chance to add a prospect like Dylan Harper. However, if I'm being honest, if I'm looking at how this is stacking up, if I'm looking at how we're looking at these guys, I'm not completely sure Dylan Harper is the way to go when you're here. I'm not completely sure he's the way to go, but I'm going to say, I don't even want to say that that's just about him. It's not an indictment on him. That number two pick is extremely valuable, and the Spurs are already young, so I'm where y'all are coming from. Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? Not necessarily. I do love a trade. I do love a trade for a star. I just don't know if Giannis is the one. I know that's the one we've talked about a lot on Spurs Digest. However, if you ask me what I want to do with this number two pick, I honestly lean to the side of get me a veteran star. Get me somebody that can get us immediately, at least to the Western Conference Finals in year one. That's where I'm at with it because, again, the Spurs have dabbled and flirted with these young guys for an extremely long time, right? We have seen young guys for the Spurs play a lot. The one thing we are really missing is that veteran star presence. We saw what Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes were able to do, the impact that veteran presence was able to have on these young guys and that starting lineup. Take this number two pick, knowing you still have another one in the fourth. Another one in the first. You still have a 14th pick. Lean on those two picks. Make a package that makes sense. Now, is Giannis the best star available? I'm not completely sure about that. My issue with trading for a guy like Giannis, as dominant as he is, as incredible as a player as he is, I just don't know if that corrects the spacing issue that we've seen the Spurs have. I don't know if De'Aaron Fox really helped that issue, if I'm completely being honest. However, when you have a guy like De'Aaron Fox, when you have a guy like Victor Wembanyama, which most Spurs fans say they want to see in the post, at least a majority of the time, which I argue with. I do think the Spurs are at their best when Victor is able to play on that perimeter, which, you know what I'm saying? I guess a guy like Giannis helps with that if you decide to say, hey, Giannis is actually our bona fide five. We have Victor down there. However, I do think you need a combo of both with Victor. You need to have him on the inside and the outside to be completely effective, to truly get that unicorn S-type skill set that Victor has. I just do not know if Giannis spaces the floor enough for me, right? Like that paint gets very, very clogged. And again, De'Aaron Fox needs to get his buckets from the paint as well. And I don't want to see De'Aaron Fox. I don't want to see Stephon Castle become, catch and shoot guys, become, perimeter, just taking shots guys. That's not really their game. And I don't want to see it turn into that. And to me, when you have Giannis, you almost have no choice but to force all these guys to become shooters. Even Victor. Victor is going to have to shoot at a much higher rate if Giannis is on that team. So I know you hear like star like Giannis, that's like Lakers, right? Like you go get Luka, but you also have to think about fit. And when you're trading a top two pick, it has to work out, right? You have to knock it out the park, and it has to be, if you're going to go get a veteran, especially when you have a guy like Dylan Harper, who, again, is phenomenal. He's number 2 behind Cooper Flagg, who is one of the better prospects we've seen. To be number 2 in this draft, like, this is a very, very tough draft. But people are looking at Dylan Harper and saying he can be that guy. Ace Bailey as well. Also don't know if I like him more than a veteran presence because, again, we have that youth. De'Aaron Fox is still young. He still hasn't reached his prime years yet. I want to see us get that veteran. Now, who that is, I'm not completely sure, but I feel like that's a future video. I actually want to hear from you guys. Who do y'all think should be the next San Antonio Spurs? Should they go get one of these top draft picks? Or should they package this with some players with maybe another first-round pick? Should they dabble? Should they move back? What do you want to see your San Antonio Spurs do? Because I know there's a lot of things you can do. This number 2 pick might be more valuable than that number 1. Like, whoever's that number 1, right, they're locked in the Cooper Flag. We knew that from the jump. This number 2, there's movement to be made. There's things to be done. And there's ways that a team like the Spurs, who are just maybe one player away, can make a move and all of a sudden be one of the favorites in the West. I think this playoffs have showed us, if they showed us anything, that the West and the East are up for grabs still. That there's teams that are out there that are hungry. And I really think you put the Spurs in the playoffs like this, you put the Spurs in the West, and they could really upset some teams, but they're really just that player away. So, again, what do you want to see? Do you want to see a trade? Do you want to see us stick with this? Do you want to see us get Dylan Harper? Do you want to see us go with Ace Bailey? Do you want to see us go somewhere else? I want to hear from y'all. This is the funnest part about the NBA draft lottery, is being able to speculate now, knowing where the Spurs lies. Again, we still have the 14th pick, and I want to dive into that because that one, to me, is also extremely valuable for what the Spurs are doing in a team that's already built like the Spurs. Imagine what this Spurs team can do with this number 2 and 14 pick. We're going to talk about that 14 pick more, but that number 2 pick, that's what everybody's excited about. That's the breaking news. That's what we got to talk about here. So, Spurs Digest family, leave in the comments how y'all are feeling. I want to talk to y'all. I want to hear from you guys. Again, me and Josh will be doing a duo very, very soon. And honestly, we're going to be looking at the comments to address what you guys are feeling. Maybe we'll even pull up some comments. So make sure y'all drop those comments. Let us know how y'all are feeling. I know one thing. I'm excited. I know one thing. I can count on, I know another thing, I can count on Brian Wright to make the right decision and the rest of this front office, because we've seen it happen back to back, baby. We have back-to-back Rookie of the Years. Can't wait to see what they do with this number 2 pick. It is so exciting. Spurs Digest family, I am Bryan Colbert here with some breaking news. The Spurs have the number 2 pick in the 2025 NBA draft. What do you think San Antonio will do with this asset? We can't wait to hear from you, and we can't wait to talk more about what the Spurs will do in this NBA draft. I'm Bryan Colbert. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that doorbell to be notified every time we post. Until next time, Spurs family, I'm Bryan Colbert. I'm out.